hindi at sasabihin mo gumaganda ka at gumugwapo ka. Ha? Well, today is August 18, 2023. And alam nyo ay mabilis ang pag-abante ng araw. Kaya by next month, per month na yun. Kaya Merry Christmas in advance to each and everyone. But before that, did you know that today it is Never Give Up Day? The international or the world is celebrating the so-called Never Give Up Day, and that is also applicable in our daily agenda in life. That while we have challenges, but it is not on what happened to us, but it is more on how we positively respond to what happened to us. Kaya kami po ay nagpapasalamat on behalf of all the members of our team that we would like to say maraming salamat for responding to our invitation. Although picture tayo kumang, that ano di bakat dito, kumang ipon at nasawan, that ada digiyay, yan, kurang. Kaya, anyway, kung minsan ay depende yan sa mas comfortable naman ng mga tao, no? So yan, strategic positioning ika nga. Anyway, again, thank you. And we shall stay here until this afternoon for those who will be completing our journey today, that we will be receiving your certificate. And for those who will be requesting for the certificate of appearance, at pwede naman natin ibibigay, especially for those who are working in the government. Today is Friday, alam po natin na napakaraming ginagawa sa mga eskwelahan, yung Brigada Eskwela, tama? Saka of course, yung iba pa, preparation for your in-campus training next week yata yun, tama? Kaya sina Teacher Arlie, nag-invite sila, yung safety spaces yata yung gusto nila na ma-discuss doon. Not only on the part of our schools, but we have also our barangays. Yeah, kaya we would like to acknowledge the presence of our barangay officials here, especially committee chairpersons on education. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Tumutulong din sila sa brigada, tama? At saka, syempre, marami rin mga trainings ngayon. More so that it's about, or it's a winding time on their part, especially na ay malapit na yung filing of the COC ng barangay. Kaya kung kayo nagtatanong, tuloy ba yung barangay elections? Kailan ba yun? That is, October 30, I know that you are aware because according to COMELEC, ay kayo po yung inaasahan to help in the implementation, peaceful implementation of these and conduct of these barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. Tama? Okay? Kaya, pwede ba ulit? Palakpakan natin ating mga sarili. Pero we have also our CSO partners here. Maraming salamat. Sila po'y galing sa iba't ibang mga organizations. In the City Development Council and even in the local government code, ang requirement po sa mga galing sa mga CSO to include yung sa PTA natin or SPTA ay at least ibig sabihin yan minimum of 1/4 mga kaibigan. So meaning that indeed that we need the active participation coming from the private sector. And the title of our event today is more of public consultation. Yeah, ibig sabihin yan, it is not all about us, but it is all about you, our dear partners. Ang ginagawa po ng City Council, just like, for example, yours truly, we initiate, but it doesn't mean na kung ano yung naisulat namin, ayan na, because we don't have the monopoly of knowledge. After all, ay gusto po namin makinig sa inyo so that we could be able to improve, amend, or even revise the proposed measure. And this is again the process every time that we do propose the so-called ordinances or sometimes even resolutions. By the way, we would like to acknowledge also the personnel ng ating hotel. No? Ito ay bago po na pinupuntahan natin. May mga iba, saan po ba yung Olive hotel? No, Olive Town. Yeah? At yan, mga kasama natin. We have also our partners, of course, from the Sangguniang Panlungsod. Of course, SP is headed by our Vice Mayor. Dinuluan, and we have our secretariat and also the members and personnel from the Sangguniang Panlunsod of the city of Baguio. Pero hindi po tayo mga kasama galing sa ating opisina at sila po yung tumutulong for us to be able to conduct this public consultation our friends. And to set forth, mga kaibigan, okay, this public consultation is again an imperative part or important part of the so-called legislative process. Okay? In a way that we have a chance to listen and to interact with you as our service partners. It is defined as the process that involves the public in providing their views and feedback on a proposal to consider in the decision making. Yeah? So meaning, it is a process. So meaning that today, there is a process that we need to follow. And part of it is for us to present to you the content of the proposed ordinance, and then we open for discussion. So that we won't be going around the bush, that what we need to do is to focus on the proposed ordinance. Marami po mga concerns about education matters, pero yan po ay pag-uusapan mamayang hapon. Kaya ngayong umaga, ang ating concentration muna ay itong content ng ating proposed ordinance. So we are here to listen and again, consider your comments for possible inclusion or incorporation in the finalization of this proposal. In the City Council, ano po yung proseso niyan? Number one, we submit our proposed ordinance. By the way, maraming salamat po sa mga nag-attend ng ating parent academy the last time that we also conducted a public consultation hosted by the same venue, mga kaibigan. So first reading, referral to the committee. So after submitting, now papasok yan sa council session into its first reading, referral to the committee. And then the committee will now report back to the plenary for second reading, for publication, or for posting. Usually, for publication, newspaper, especially kung may mga penalty clause yan, especially kung yan ay tinatawag nating appropriations ordinance. Pero pag hindi naman masyadong mabigat, through posting sa mga public places. Eh sana, makialam din tayo na pag may mga nakapost at mayroon kayong time you read, as you read the notes in your cell phones. Natin. So, after that, second reading for posting or for publication. It is where now we conduct public consultation. So, ibig sabihin, this proposed ordinance is now into its second reading for publication. But we would like to interact with you. We would like to engage you because we would like to learn and listen from you. After that, we'll report it back kung ano yung result ng ating pag-uusapan ngayon. So it will now be second reading after publication. It is where deliberations, it is where rebuttals, it is where discussions will happen at the City Council. So in effect, that you are helping me to defend this proposal. Salamat sa inyong presensya. So, after second reading, after publication. So yan na yung aming deliberation. Pag okay na, I will report it back to the council for its third and final reading. Okay? So, into its third and final reading, enacted na po yung proposed ordinance na yan. But we shall forward it to the local chief executive to affix his signature so that from being enacted, it will now be an approved ordinance. Okay? So, anyway, sinasabi po natin dito, kasi may mga iba sa inyo ay, ano ba yung steps or process to follow, especially in proposing an ordinance. And this is also probably an engagement or learning engagement on our part para madagdagan pa yung ating mga galing natin. So, another one it says here, the legal basis for a public consultation That's why even in the Congress, or even in the lower and upper Congress, that what they do conduct a so-called public hearing. This is under Section 16, Article 13 of our Philippine Constitution. It says there, the right of the people in their organizations to effective and reasonable participation at all levels of social, political, and economic decision. This is actually a social decision making. Because when you speak about education matters, it affects everyone. Hindi lang po kayo na mga nagtatrabaho, but it has an impact to our young people. So meaning, in a way that we are also investing to our young people. Natin. Next one. This is part of the so-called participatory governance. Palagi po natin napapakinggan, good governance, participatory governance, shared governance, or progressive governance. In fact, sa inyong mga school, mayroon kayong mga SGC. Dati-rati, ang tawag doon, School Governing Council. But now, School Governance Council, mga kaibigan. Why? It is because it involves everyone. That's the purpose of governance. That the government could not do it alone. And that's why we need to involve different or individuals or organizations representing various sectors, mga kaibigan. So it says here, let's be active co-creators of good, shared, and progressive governance instead of simply recipients of it. And people's participation matters, our friends. Hindi lang po tayo pagkatapos na ginawa ang isang sabihin natin, local ordinance, local law, magko-comment tayo. Okay, hindi maganda yan. But the time that we were invited to share our ideas and comments about the proposed ordinance ay wala po tayo. Kaya napaka-crucial po ang inyong presence today. By the way, kasi crucial yung presence nyo today, kaya free snacks, free meals. Wala po pabayaran. At yan po ay hindi sagot ng iyong abang lingkod. Sagot ng City Government of Baguio. Palagpakan nyo naman ang City Government, ang inyong gobyerno. At natin, di ba, Mr. Pascadel, ako principal, okay? So good governance. Part, para hindi natin makalimutan, P stands for public participation. And this is it. Sabi ko nga, kahit nasa likod ka, it is where you are comfortable. The most important thing is you participate. Tama? Okay ba yun? Okay. So public participation. And that is what we are looking for. Proactive participation coming from the public. Okay? Another one is accountability. When you speak about accountability, it's not only the things that we did wrong, but on the things that we missed to do. Kaya, kung pinasa po namin itong ordinance without you and your active participation, that's actually, we are accountable the moment that it is not efficient, it is not effective, because you don't own it. Because from the outset, that you were not included in the crafting of this proposed measure. Kaya we own it. It's all about owning it. Natin. Responsiveness. That's also one of the purposes why we propose ordinances. It is because before you propose an ordinance, you need to conduct deep study or research. So ano po yung mga kailangan natin? So that the proposed ordinance shall be responsive to the present and future needs of our people. Kaya nga, it shall be future fit policy. Hindi po natin pang ngayon lang, pero bukas wala na. Okay? Although in some instances, may ganun naman. Band-aid. Parang nung time, for example, ng pandemic, may mga talagang pang-pandemic lamang na mga measures na ginawa ng council because that is the application of the so-called situational leadership. Yan yung need during that time, and that's why we enacted and approved yung mga measures na yun. So it should be responsive to the needs, to the future and or to the present and future needs of our city. And of course, the city of Baguio is known as the citadel or center of education of the North. And that's why we need to prove it. Okay? And dapat, medyo abante tayo. Parang ganito, bakit po kaya meron tayong proposal na ganito? In the city government of Baguio, we have the so-called City Tourism Office, headed by the City Tourism Officer. Diba, meron na silang regional office. And yet, meron pa silang city office. Okay? We have the so-called CSWD. Ito yung local version ng DSWD. We have City Engineering Office. Yeah? And yet, meron namang DPWH. How come that in the city of Baguio, as we are known as the center of quality education, yet we don't have local office in terms of education? Meron ma'am DepEd, but that is for the basic education. Mayroong TESDA, but that is for the TECPO. Mayroong CHED, but that is for the higher education. But the reality is, we are dependent on the orders coming from national. Kaya kung minsan, joke ko yung mga kasama natin, don't be CCTV. O kung sabihin sa akin, yan yung order ko sa taas, kaya nga andito ka sa lokal so that you localize the orders. Kasi kung ang sagot mo sa akin, palaging ay, yan po kasi yung order sa taas. So para kang camera na kung ano yung napicturan mo galing sa taas, exact na yan po yung dadaling mo sa baba. Remember that what is applicable in other places, just like in Metro Manila, is not necessarily applicable here because of our peculiarities. In terms of people, in terms of values, in terms of culture, that's why it is high time for us to come up with local education office. And that is not simply to cater basic education. The whole of the education community here in the city of Baguio, to include out of school yun, to include the mga magulang na gusto pang mag-aral. So yan po yung isa. But anyway, we'll be presenting the gist of the proposed ordinance later. I am presenting this mainly because of the concept of being responsive to the needs of our community. And of course, transparency. It's time that we would like to present the whole content, the whole tenor of the proposed ordinance because we would like to be transparent with you. Para malaman po ninyo at tingnan natin kung tama nga ba yung mga naisulat at saka yung content and purposes of the proposed ordinance. Okay? Now, we have the purpose and objective of our gathering today. Number one, the presentation of the proposed ordinance, emphasizing its purpose, contents, and the composition. Well, again, mapagbasa po kayo at alam ko that you have mastered the book authored by Rick Warren, and that is The Purpose-Driven Life. Yeah? By the way, singit ko lang, ang mga Pilipino raw, 10 hours sa isang araw, RIB, Recreational Internet Browsing. But we are not learning. Believe me. Oh, recreational Internet Browsing. Without recreation, hindi magbabasa yan. But natin. Kaya still, book reading is the best. And I am promoting such, our friends. Well, we browse because of social media presence, but if you want to learn, influence more, I think that book reading is still the best. Why? Dumaan yan sa quality control, as they said. Okay, so the purpose. What's the purpose of this ordinance? Kaya where assess? Pag titingnan po natin yung introductory ng lahat po ng mga proposed measures, may where assess. Doon sa where assess, it establishes 3 important aspects. Number 1, legal basis ng ordinansang yan. Kasi hindi pwede maging ultra vires ang tawag natin doon. It is against the law. Okay? It is unconstitutional. So we need to establish the legal basis of such proposed ordinance. Okay. Pangalawa, after establishing the legal basis, we need to establish the purpose, the objective, the direction of the ordinance. In number 3, we need to establish, is it responsive, again, to the present and future needs of our community. One natin. So second, it says here, to gather comments, okay? Suggestions and proposals for possible adoption to further improve and refine our proposed measures. Again, we are here to solicit from you, not monetarily, but your ideas about it. To gather comments, your suggestions, or probably may proposal po kayo to further improve our proposed ordinance for possible adoption. Huwag naman lahat ng sasabihin, lahat i-adapt natin. Probably, we adapt more, we part some, and probably we study some natin. Okay? So, open discussion po tayo mamaya. So what you can do is, or what we shall do is to identify yourself and then give your comments on the proposed ordinance. Natin. Now, the third one, to sustain partnership with the stakeholders of the education sector while further sustaining service continuity through synergy and collaboration. So, through this, tayo po, nasusustain po natin yung ating partnership. Para hindi lang po kayo nag-i-invite sa atin na pupunta sa school ninyo, or sa barangays ninyo, or sa organizations ninyo. Instead, kami rin naman ay nag-i-invite sa inyo. So, reciprocated yan. Partnership ika na. We are like fingers, while fingers are not exactly the same. But the reality is they need to collaborate with each other. We go back to our culture of Bignadan, our friends. When we work together, that we shall not be apart from each other. Because we can only exist as one big community when we are actively connected. So, through this public consultation, may kumustahan. Kaya sigurado sa inyo kanina, ay nakita nyo yung mga kaibigan nyo. Tama ba? Parang ngayon ko lang nakita ulit si Mr. Pascader. Mulo ko, kapitbahay ko yan, so may magsaysay. Di ko alam kung may lipat na siya. Okay? Si Arlene. Sabi ko, sino kaya itong naunang nag-park dun sa baba? Parang hindi siya nakalinya dun sa parking. Nakita ko si Arlene. Okay? And then of course, si Kagawa, retired police po ito eh. Pero gusto niya sabi nga nila, retired in the PNP but not tired in terms of public service. Si Kapitan De Vera, Kagawa. Yeah. Okay, of course, from SNU SVP, si malalaman ko yung full name mo dyan. So meaning, ulit, because that's the difference of machines from human. I am saying that because I have this proposal also. Kaya in advance that probably you may attend proposal and second reading for publication. This is creating artificial intelligence development and advisory board in the city of Baguio. We need to think in advance, hindi proactive, but we need to be always on the go in advance. Why? Because we could not simply sit down in our laurels while the outside world is fastly changing our friends. Okay? So while continuing through synergy and collaboration. Another one, to be appraised and updated on the programs and new policies from the education partner agencies. And that's why this afternoon we have invited our friends from the Department of Education, City of Baguio. Well, the official start of the school year 2023 and 2024 is by August 29. Pero sa atin, parang New Year yan eh. Bago natin simulan ng New Year, dapat alamin natin ano ba yung nangyari ng nakaraang taon. Importante yun. So that we shall know the 4S. What to sustain, what to stop, what to strengthen, and what to start. Okay? That time. Okay? Next. So meaning, again, We have also invited our friends from the Commission on Higher Education, and that's why we have our partners from universities and colleges here. And then we have invited our friends from the Department of Labor and Employment, because that is employment after finishing their education. What's next? Study again without even being employed. Okay? So we need to invite our partners from DOLE. And we have also invited our partners from the Civil Service Commission, especially for those who are interested to enter the government service. At sila po ang mga magsasalita mamaya hapon. There will be a panel discussion in case that we have also questions, especially on the new programs that you may ask them. Okay. And then to gather other public concerns and recommendations which will guide the City Council in coming up with efficient legislative measures. Bago po natin na i-propose tong ordinance na ito, we have conducted a survey. In fact, ay meron pong presentation dyan, and part of that survey is, are you supportive or are you amenable in establishing local education office here in the city of Baguio? And so far, nakita po natin na mataas ang support. That's one of the reasons why we push through this proposed ordinance. At may mga iba pa po na ginawa tayo mga survey, just like for example, o sa mga parents, are you amenable that we shall revert back the vacation time so that it will truly be summer vacation? Kasi may nagsasabi summer, July, August naman. Ha? Parang sinasabi natin na magpa-load ka ng unlimited, pero limited ang mga mag-text mo naman ng mga networks. Yeah. Kaya nakita namin mataas din po ang support that we shall revert back. We had also the survey on the mother or the MTB MLE. Are you amenable of its removal or we need to enhance it? We had also the survey on the impact of K-12, especially on the senior high. Especially that, of course, we have this proposed law by former President GMA that is K to 10 plus 2. Ibig sabihin yan, okay, ang mangyari po doon ay maging optional na lang yung 11 and 12. Okay? Yan po yung proposal. But we need to have a local stand. But in the absence of a local education office, wala. Pag hindi natin gagawin yan, sinong gagawa sa mga yan? Just like, for example, are you supportive of coming up with City College of Baguio? Okay, we are again center of education, and yet we don't have pamantasan ng lungsod ng Baguio, but that should be on pioneering courses na wala po sa mga existing na mga universities and colleges so that we won't be competing with them. Pero hanggat walang dedicated office na gagawa ng mga ito, wala po. Ito sinisingit po natin sa ating Committee on Education. While we are the chairperson on the education matters, but it is more on legislative side. But on others, I think that there is really a need for us to come up with this particular office. Okay? Another one. Tapos na pala, the decline of education causes the collapse of the nation. No need for you to have an atomic bomb to destroy, for example, our country. The only way is for us to weaken our education or educational system. Okay? It doesn't mean that when we do study that we are absorbing quality education. Kaya ako po, nagpapasalamat sa inyo, mga teachers. Okay, be it from the private or public schools. Abi po yung nagpapasalamat. By the way, we have now this ordinance approved by or enacted by the City Council, and it's now an ordinance, and that is Baguio Teachers Day celebration. Apart from DepEd sponsored program, pero that is every first Friday of October, and that includes private learning institutions. And that is now an ordinance. Teachers, educators appreciation day para po sa inyo. And thank you again for participating during our public consultation, and that's why we were able to again to enact that, and it's now a full-fledged ordinance. Educators as community leaders are both visualizers and actualizers. You deliver, my friends. Thank you for again your that great contribution, especially in empowering our young people. Even during COVID times, nakita po natin kung paano kasigasig po at pagpupursige ng ating mga nasama, especially in the education sector. Again, I am referring to both private and public learning institutions. You are community leaders. Parang ikaw din si kagawad, pero sa school ka po. Parang ikaw din si kapitan, pero sa school ang focus natin. Yung mga kagawads na kasama natin ngayon, at saka yung mga nasa CSO, parang ikaw na rin, si Apo teacher, ikaw na rin si Apo principal. Ang tawag natin doon, cross-functional, not multitask, cross-functional. Okay? We can stay the same while outside world is fastly changing. Before the presentation, we are now in the so-called 5th Industrial Revolution. Okay? We are now outside of the so-called VUCA world, the 4th Industrial Revolution. We are now in the so-called 5th, in a way that it's all about collaboration between machines and human beings. Machines can never replace human beings, only when human beings will embrace continuous improvement. If what you know today is exactly what you will know 5 years from now, for sure that you will be replaced by the machines. Ibig sabihin niyan, skills are perishable. And that's why we need to turn skills into competencies. And that is what you are doing in your respective organizations. Okay? So again, I'd like to welcome each and everyone. Maraming salamat for joining us today. By the way, the good councilor, Fred Bagbagan, siya po kasi ang committee chairperson on EDA. Ito po yung creation of offices, okay, ethics and good and governance. Yan po ang kanyang hawak. Kaya, when we submitted our proposal,